Hello and welcome to another episode of Project GaitWay. Today, meet Ethel, not real name. She's asked to be anonymous. So I looked up what is today's name day, or what is the name of the day today, and apparently today is Ethel. So hello, Ethel. FYI, the male name of the day is Donovan. Anyway, what we're going to do is look at how Ethel is standing. We're going to look at how she's walking. And then the game I'm going to play is to see if it's possible to guess about any of her history that might have led her body to be feeling and moving like the way it does today. Some of Ethel's current complaints are her left whole leg, really. She says her hamstrings, her hip flexor, her knee, and the left side of her tailbone on the left side all get sore and nervy with use. She's also got a painful plantar wart on the left foot, also known as a verruca, depending which country you're from. Man, plantar warts really suck. I feel your pain, Ethel. I used to get them when I was a kid and I was swimming a lot. No fun whatsoever. So that'll be cool to see how that's showing up in her gait. All right, well, let's look at how she's standing. Unfortunately, her feet are a little cut off by the screen there, but we'll see what we can do. So the first thing that really stands out with her static posture here from the back view is her shoulders. They look very different. Her right shoulder does look higher than her left one. But I'm trying to tell, what is her scapula actually doing differently on this side? What I'm trying to suss out is if she has upwardly rotated or a downwardly rotated scapula here compared to this one. Looking at just the medial border of the scapula on the left side, it looks pretty straight up and down. This one, I want to say it looks a bit more downwardly rotated. It's hard for me to see, but one clue is how her spine looks like it's side flexed to the left. And it looks as if her right arm is closer to her body. On this kind of angle, it's more adducted, whereas there's more space here between her left arm and her body, so that arm looks like it's more abducted. The combination of a spine lateral flexion to the left, well, a spine that's laterally flexed to the left should give us the combination of a scapula that's a bit more downwardly rotated and an arm that's more adducted. So that might be what it looks like we're seeing here. Now, I'm not sure if these look like bruises. They might be from cupping. You received some intense cupping treatments on your back there, or did you fall down some stairs recently? So we have something that looks like a spine lateral flexion, and we have also what looks to be a bit of a hike in the pelvis on the left. So we have this kind of shape. Now, does it look like she's standing more over top of one leg than the other? If I had to choose, I would say she's standing more over to the left. Oops. And it does look like her right foot, it's hard to see with the screen as it is, but her right foot, whoopsie, did it again. Oh my gosh, not going well. Her right foot looks a little bit more everted, like she's more rolled to the inside of it than her left foot. I have the sense that her right leg looks a bit more internally rotated and her knee here looks a bit more flexed on the right also. All right, I think we're ready to move on to another view. Now it's interesting, she doesn't say she has any complaints about her neck, but I wonder if with her shoulders in very different positions like that, she does notice anything in her neck or in her shoulders. One last thing from the back view, it does look like this right scapula is a bit more protracted, so rolled forwards. Let's see if she's gonna do anything. Oh, and then she stepped back farther than the camera. That's great. All right, I kind of want to do a front view first. Thank you, Ethel. Stop you there. Okay, is that really how you're standing? Let's go back. Let's go back a little bit. Because here's the interesting thing. Just looking at as she gets into her stance, she sways back and forth quite a bit. So, and she doesn't really ever stand completely settled. I don't know. Like here, it looks like she's standing more in her right leg. So in that last photo, I might have caught her swaying back and forth, but she doesn't spend that much time in either of her stances. She goes left, right. Here again, she sways, but she looks like she ends up in her right foot there. So I wonder if that's a bit more of how she would normally be. And from the front view, it doesn't look like she really has that same kind of hike in the left side of her pelvis. So that could have been just a fluke of how she was wobbling side to side still. This is the thing about static posture is you never really know if you can 100% rely on it. And especially folks who have very strong ideas about what or how they should stand in front of you. Often people will say, well, I want to stand at my best so you can see me doing my best. And I totally understand that thought process or the reasoning behind that. But we actually want you to stand at your very worst so we can see, not at your worst, just as you are and let it all hang out. Anyway, the thing that does look, oh no, wait, that is, and I'm all scrambling in my brain. I was going to say, look at her feet. She now does look like she is more everted through her left foot. So it's opposite of what we saw from the back view. So I wonder, I don't know if I want to trust so much. It makes more sense to me that she would be shifted towards her right since she has the complaint of the plantar wart on the left foot. That's painful for her. But what we do see consistently from front to back is the side bend to the left of her spine. Now, I wonder how recent of a thing that is. I wonder how long this plantar wart situation has been going on for, because what we will see often is if there's a shift to the right with the pelvis, it'll give us this kind of, oh, I drew that in the wrong spot. Let me draw it right beside her. So we see this shift in the pelvis to the right, which will give us a counterbalance sometimes in the spine like that, which is kind of what we're seeing to exaggerate Ethel's stance like that. And I wonder if her left leg complaints, hamstrings, hip flexors, etc., I wonder if that has been long-standing or if that is recent due to the plantar wart situation, or I don't know, maybe they're both long-standing or both recent. I'm not sure. Let's see what we can tell. Does it look like her right scapula is a bit more protracted? I have the sense that yes, it is. And I also have the sense that her spine, oopsie, is rotated to the left. That may not be the case. If we look at her hands here as well, we have the impression of this whole arm being more internally rotated and this whole arm being externally rotated. That sort of arrangement of the arms would go hand in hand. Get it? A lame joke. That would go hand in hand with a spine that's rotated to the left. Left rotation of the spine. This is the left side. Now from the back view, I think I mentioned that it looked like her right knee was more flexed. And I think it kind of looks that way from a side or a front view as well. Let's back it up into a side view. Let's see. Oh, no, don't go that far. Oh, it always does that. Try to back up, it just goes right back to the beginning. Okay. No, back up just a little bit. Okay. Yeah, even from this side view, I have quite a sense of a rotation to the left through her entire spine. This knee does look a little soft, as in bent. But we'll see. I mean, you can see her other calf right there sticking out behind her right one. So maybe her right knee is a bit more bent. We'll take a look at it from a side view. On the other side, I mean. Make a note about how her right shoulder is sitting. Is it really protracted with that shoulder blade? And we can also make a note of just the space between her shoulder and her ear. I like that about a side view sometimes. Let's get her to turn to the other side. I like that she steps farther and farther from the camera each time. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at her knees here, and actually, I don't know if we can say if the right one is more bent, because actually it looks like now her back of her calf is sticking out on this side. That's interesting. So I'm inconclusive about that. You can see her head kind of rotated off to the right here. It looks like she's looking over to the right corner of the room there, which I don't know, maybe she is because she's thinking about walking over there next. I'd like to backtrack her to the other side again. Backwards. No, backwards, not forwards. Yeah, I'm really on the fence actually about her knees. I'm going to not make any conclusions about that. One of those things that's useful to do as a person who doesn't want to go crazy, talking about myself, is if you're uncertain about something, don't get lost in it. Just park it in a section of your brain labeled uncertainty box and come back to it. Oh, there's one thing I wanted to check that I didn't. I wanted to look at her actual like kneecaps from the side. So I like to look at If one kneecap is more visible from the side view, if you can't see it, then that kneecap's probably pointing quite inwards. So this one's kind of hard to see. You definitely don't want to see it pointing straight at you. That would be weird. But let's see how much of her left kneecap we see when she turns to her left side. And yeah, that's what I thought. You do see a little bit more of her kneecap here. So I think we are looking at a leg that's externally rotated on the left and more internally rotated on the right. Okay, are we ready to watch her walk? A few things of interest might be how her spine is side bending. We might see an interesting rotation through her body, through her spine, pelvis. I'm really curious to see how she's managing her weight to get on and off of her left leg, since that's the one with some things going on right now. So shall we watch her in full speed a few times? Oh yeah, she really, I think, wants to push off that right leg. Yeah, she's very loving her right leg right now. I can see her pelvis is really only rotating to the right and not to the left. Did I say that right? No, I meant the opposite of what I said. This is her left side, I believe. Yeah, her pelvis is rotating left, 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 her whole spine, really. Let's see again. She's got quite a bit of hiking in her pelvis, frontal plane, both sides. Let's back that up and watch again. Forward. Oh, what's her spine doing? That side to side plane. Yeah, she does have a little bit of a side bend left going on. We do kind of see her head in the same position. Out. Her arms don't really extend behind her very much, do they? Her left arm does, but her right arm doesn't move as much. And that might be the scapula that's just a little more downwardly rotated, so it doesn't really move quite as nicely. Well, let's see. Let's see if we can slow this down and get some more information. So we'll take her through a few steps. Oh, come on, which is I don't you do these things to me. Right. So we'll start her going into an early swing on the left. I want to make a note right away of how much her left heel is lifting from the ground. Right there, she is rising off of it. And that makes me wonder about, I wonder where the wart is on her left foot. If it's anywhere in her heel and she wants to get her weight off of it, that would make sense. We really shouldn't see the heel lifting quite that much in mid stance here. The heel should be on the ground for a little bit longer until her right leg starts to swing forwards a bit farther. She does seem to have a bit of this tilt to the side with her head and this side bend through her spine. So this kind of posture she's holding here. So we want to see more or less level pelvis, straight spine, level head. And we do see again that static posture of her right arm being a bit more adducted, a bit tighter to her body. So we could potentially, if we wanted to wonder about her injury history, she might have had something happen to that shoulder. It's staying so close to her side. It's more turned inwards. Blah, blah, blah. Well, let's see what happens as we go along. Ooh, she really pushes off that foot, doesn't she? I would be interested to know if she experiences some tight calves. All right, so we're going from early swing on the right to late swing on the right. Ooh, look at how high that heel is. This totally, I think, is Ethel a dancer? This totally reminds me of stuff we had to do in dance class. Walk across the floor on your toes. But I mean, I would do that too if I was trying to get off my heel, if that's where her discomfort is in her foot due to the wart. So that is a very interesting position to be in during a late swing with that much. I just want to call that a releve because it doesn't look like a heel lift that you'd see in gait. It looks like a heel lift that you do deliberately. She still has a bit of a left hike in her pelvis from when she was in her mid stance here. Mid stance, pelvis hike. Pelvis stays kind of hiked. Now it also looks like her front foot, her ankle is plantar flexing, which is interesting. Maybe it's just the angle, but she doesn't look like she's dorsiflexing that ankle. And it kind of looks like she lands on her toes. Toe, is she landing on her toes there? I think she's landing on her toes. That is super cool, Ethel. Is that a deliberate thing? Or is that just what your body does? So we know in heel strike, we'd want to land on the heel. So if we're looking for what's missing, we are missing the heel strike. Now what's interesting is landing on the toes is going to change the timing of everything that happens next, because the toes coming down are part of the foot pronating, and she's landing essentially in a way that's going to cause her to pronate more quickly. So let's see how that plays out as she gets her foot on the ground. That was a fast pronation. She goes from here to boom in one frame. So that's her pronation phase. Oh, it goes a little more. That's it there. Okay. So that's not too shabby looking for the pronation phase. However, we are seeing quite a big leftward rotation of her pelvis, which we also saw in the full speed. So that big rotation left with the pelvis, it always makes me want to assess how well her right hip, the one she's spinning away from, how well can that hip flex and adduct at this moment in time here? Because if she's using up a lot of transverse plane, T-plane, that's the rotation to the left. If she's using up a lot of transverse plane, then it makes me wonder about these other two planes of motion. Can she flex and adduct her right hip? And is she doing that much of a rotation because of how quickly her foot is pronating? When the foot pronates on the right, it should send her pelvis away from it in the transverse plane into a left rotation. So those two things are definitely happening, but they're both happening a lot. So I wonder why she is doing that so much. Very interested to see how she actually gets into her heel strike on the left leg if she does the same kind of landing on the toe strategy. If she does, I don't know, maybe Ethel, are you a toe walker or did you walk on your toes as a kid? Let's see what happens. One last thing just to say about this is how her spine still seems to be leaning off to the left. instead of being stacked up like that on top of her pelvis. Also worth noting is her right arm still adducted. So a few things that have not changed yet are her spine and her right shoulder. We'd like to see things changing a little bit when you're walking and not holding the same shape all throughout. So those are always interesting clues. All right, let's get her into a right mid stance. And she does go up on her right heel too quite a bit. So there could be some traces of heel walkery or toe walkery. So that would be something I am curious about. Please let us know, Ethel. So we're seeing a bit of a hike in her pelvis like we did on the other side when she was in mid stance. So she's got that similarity. She does seem to be veering off quite a bit to the left with her spine. And here we see her right arm starting to abduct away from her body a little bit. And then her left arm start to adduct, come closer to her body. So that's interesting. Got a bit of a side arm swing happening instead of a forward back arm swing purely. And in particular, it's interesting with the side bend of her spine to the left. Her left arm should be more away from her body in theory. It should be more abducted compared to her right one is. Her right one, well, if it's in an abducted position now, that might be the only thing it can do from where it was holding itself adducted next to her. Anyway, interesting side swing of the arms. We'll keep our eye on that. Okay, so let's go into late swing. Okay, so this foot, she does have a heel strike. Look at that. Interesting. So what would that do if having a more heel contact strike? I'm just thinking about how that might make her left leg feel differently. Because it does, that's where she has a lot of her discomfort is on the left leg. Left knee, left hip flexors, left hamstrings, coccyx. She looks pretty stacked up straight here. She's not really leaning to the side anymore. I know it's getting a little bit granular. Look at the quality of how she pronates this foot. It's a lot slower on the left foot, I mean. She lands in a heel strike. It looks like there. There's where she's getting her pronation. This is where she actually looks the most organized in her body, as in she's more stacked up on axis, so she doesn't have her spine leaning off away from her front leg. She's got her pelvis and her rib cage more over top of each other than what we saw when her right leg was forward. She just looks a little more chilled out right now. That's interesting. that this is the side that she's having some of her issues on. But then the next moment, that's when we see some distortion come back in. I was looking at her arms right here. Because it looks like they both swing the same direction. You see that? Her arms kind of both swing forward, like she's boosting herself up and out of her left leg. And then there, and then she gets her arms swinging different directions. It's interesting. That right foot, man, what happened there? Because she does it again. Heel strike on the left, no heel strike on the right. So I'm wondering, did I get it wrong? Did I write down the wrong foot that she had the plantar wart on? I'm gonna have to double check that. So I hope I didn't lie to you, because it almost looks like, I mean, I would walk like that if I was trying to avoid something painful on the bottom of my right foot. But I thought I read left. Let's see. Let's see what she looks like from the front view. I'm just trying to sneakily open up my computer to double check what she wrote to me. Let's get her a little bit closer to us. Okay, I'm really intrigued by this right foot. I'm trying to find the right place where I actually have what information she wrote to me. Bear with me one moment. I have a painful plantar wart on the bottom of my left foot. Okay, so it is indeed her left foot that is the one that is painful. So why is this right foot? Oh my gosh, don't tell me this is one of those videos where the left and the right are mirrored. I can't even deal with that. So we're just going to say that this is the right side, this is the left side, because I cannot mirror in my mind that way and be coherent. So let's take a look at how this right leg swings through. Pointed foot. So what we could say is that on her right leg, she is missing dorsiflexion in her ankle and her TCJ, missing heel strike. And look at how much that pelvis is rotated to the left. Also notice both of her arms are in front of her body here. At this moment right here, both of her arms swing forwards. What we'd want to see is this arm going backwards, her right arm extending, and her left arm flexing. Instead, we have both arms flexing for a brief moment. And at this particular moment in time, when she's in theory in a heel strike, we would want her right arm to be reaching its full end range of being behind her, and her left arm full range of flexion being in front of her. So her right arm does not extend. That is super interesting. When does her right arm extend? I thought I saw it go behind her a little bit at one point. It extends there. Okay, so it starts to extend early swing, and then it flexes. Oh, that is so interesting. Do you see how her right arm and her right leg both flex at the same time. And that totally makes sense why we'd see her spine and her everything rotating to the left. Just try it. Stand on your left leg, swing your right arm and leg forward, and you should feel how that twists your body to the left. I believe the correct term for that kind of pattern is a homologous or homolateral movement pattern where the arm and the leg are going the same direction. And there is a moment in time where there's a brief millisecond where the arm and the leg are going the same direction, both are flexing, but it shouldn't be here. It should be more like this point here when the big toe lands on the ground on the front foot. But she just kind of holds that homolateral. I think it's homolateral is the right word instead of contralateral, heterolateral. Opposite arm and leg. She's got same arm and leg swinging forward. I am really curious when I see something like that. I mean, I know she's got something going on with her left foot, but it makes me think about reflex integration, primary reflex development in early infancy, especially with that toe walking thing. And interesting how it's happening only on one side and it's coupled with a homolateral pattern in her body. I could be totally wrong about that, but when I see something like that, my mind immediately goes to what was her 0 to 3 years of childhood development like in terms of reflex integration. How long has this pattern been going on for? Is this a recent thing because of how she's accommodating for her left foot? Or is this a long-standing thing from before that? I would be curious to hear more. Okay, so there's some discombobulation about her right arm and leg. Now she goes into here. So we do see quite a bit of a bend in that knee, which is fine, but we're going to compare to our other side too. So that looks a little wonky. Now, if she is missing dorsiflexion in her ankle as a thing, it would make sense that she'd need to do a lot of stuff up top to make up for an ankle that can't dorsiflex. So that's one potential for why we're seeing so much rotation of her pelvis there. And mid stance, she doesn't really supinate this foot. Her right arm is still in front of her, but now this is where it should be swinging forward, so that's cool. So you see here we have this moment where we do have her left arm going back and her right arm going forwards. That's great. Wonderful coordination. As she gets into heel strike. On the left foot, we have what should be her full arm swing range of motion, getting close to anyway. Interesting how her left foot is landing on the ground there. You see how it looks like her big toe is going down towards the ground first. So even though she is landing on her heel, she still has this tendency for the toe to look for the ground. Now, this could be because of her wanting to avoid part of her foot, or that could be remnants of a bit of a toe walkie situation on her left leg as well. Now, what's interesting is how much her right arm stays in flexion, and it doesn't start to extend until much later than we'd like it to. So her arms are not in sync. So I'm going to stop it when her big toe gets on the ground. There. And I want you to watch for when her right arm starts to swing back. What we want to see is when her big toe lands on the ground on the left foot, her right arm starts to extend at roughly the same time. I think what we're going to see is her right arm continue to go forwards when it ought to be going backwards. So big toes down, arms still coming forwards, arms still forwards. Doesn't really go back. It goes out to the side a little bit. But that was her extension. That's it. That's all she's got. Did you catch it? Whoops. She's got, if you watch her arm, there's her extension of her arm. That's it. It doesn't go farther than that. So I wonder about this elbow as well, because it looks like there's not a whole lot. Elbow extension. This hand looks a little frozen. It's interesting here, both arms flexing. This arm just does not know how to extend. So I'm really curious if you had, Ethel, any issues with that shoulder, any accidents, like dislocated it, anything like that? Fell on it? Why is that arm like that? Okay, so I'm so curious about what the story is here. I think we're going to stop here because my hand is starting to get sore. I've been doing a lot of these gait videos and using my hand. Like today I woke up and I was like, wow, my hand hurts. And I'm catching right now that it's due to what I'm doing on the screen with my hand here. So I'm gonna stop the video here. I have enough questions that I'd like to get some answers to from Ethel. I don't know if I completely understand why she's having all the experiences she is on her left leg, because what it looks like is her right side is where I would expect all of the issues to show up in. But it's not always like that. Unless, of course, this is actually a mirrored video where this is her left side and this is her right side, which would be a mind fuck. So I'm curious to ask about your right shoulder, the GH joint, or anything that happened to the shoulder girdle, clavicle, scapula on the right side, elbow, wrist, anything on that right arm that would make it reluctant to move behind you, because that arm is not extending. I don't know if that's what's causing some stuff to get thrown out of whack. Because if that arm can't extend, then it's going to be really challenging for her body to rotate to the left as well as it can to the right. That could be what we're seeing with, or what she's experiencing with her left side discomfort. Is if her pelvis only rotates to the left, then that might just be driving her really into that left hip, into like an internal rotation. I'm not sure exactly. That would be something I'd want to in person get a closer look at for sure. If they're having this side bend, man, I would love to assess a particular reflex, a few particular reflexes with my MNRI toolkit, because it looks like there's some stuff showing up there. MNRI is Mascotova neurosensory motor reflex integration, which looks at the infant reflexes. Very cool stuff. Very useful for those who need it. Foot, why are you toe walking? These are questions that I don't know if Ethel is going to have answers to, but of interest, these two things here, shoulder and right foot reflexes. And where exactly on your left foot is that wart? So I'm curious about how you're managing the weight on your foot right now to avoid stepping on it. Okay, those are all the questions I have for now. Really interested to hear what in your history can potentially quell my mind and fill in the gaps. Because there's nothing quite like having incomplete information to stress out your brain. Which is why in real client sessions, it can be so stressful sometimes when you don't know bits of information that you wish you had. So this is where I'm getting it out of my system, making a game out of it. Thanks, Ethel, for sending us your video. Really looking forward to hearing back from you about your experience watching this and your reply. And anyone else who has questions, observations, comments, please leave them in the comment section below the video. I'll be back another day soon with another episode of Project GaitWay. I'm going to let my hand rest for a little while, because if there's one thing I've been learning the past little while, it's when your body says this activity is painful, it is best to listen. So a few days off from doing gait videos to let my hand rest. And on that note, have a wonderful day.